Redditors, how did your life fall apart without you realizing it happened? I met Erin at Priya's engagement party. Do you remember that one? The rooftop one downtown with the string lights and the awful champagne and everyone pretending not to judge her fiancé's family? That one. I almost didn't even go. I had worked late, I was wearing a black dress I'd already worn twice that season, and I was in one of those moods where everybody else's happiness feels slightly aggressive. But Priya would have killed me if I skipped it, so I went. Erin was standing near the drinks table when I first noticed him. Not in an obvious way. He wasn't the loudest guy in the room, or the most polished. He just had this ease about him, like he didn't need people to orbit him to feel important. He was talking to someone's uncle about cricket scores, then 5 minutes later helping Priya's grandmother with her chair, then joking with the bartender like they'd known each other for years. He looked like the kind of man who made people feel safe, and I think that mattered to me more than I realized at the time. We started talking because he made some sarcastic comment about the tiny desserts being architecturally impressive, but emotionally unsatisfying, and I laughed. Then we just kept talking, about everything, where we grew up, what our parents were like, the first jobs we ever had, the dumbest things we did in college, books we pretended to read, and movies we actually liked. He asked questions and actually listened to the answers, not in that performative way men sometimes do when they've learned how to appear attentive. He really listened. At one point I remember thinking, this feels easy in a way that usually takes months. He texted me before I even got home, not something lazy like, nice meeting you. He texted, I'm still thinking about your theory, that every family has one dangerously sentimental person who keeps old birthday cards. I need to know if yours is you. It was charming. Annoyingly charming. And that was it really. That was the start. The first year with Erin was good, genuinely good. That's what's so hard to explain to people now. They want the story to have warning signs from day one. They want him to have been cold or shady or clearly broken from the start. But he wasn't. Or if he was, I didn't see it. He was thoughtful, consistent, funny. He remembered things I said in passing. He brought me soup when I got sick. He'd show up with coffee exactly the way I liked it. He once drove an hour and a half because I had casually mentioned missing a bakery from my hometown. And he came back with a box of pastries and acted like it wasn't a big deal. Who doesn't fall for that? We dated for almost 2 years before he proposed, not because either of us was hesitant. It just unfolded naturally. We were already living half our lives together anyway. He proposed during a weekend trip, nothing too theatrical, no hidden photographer. Thank God. Just the two of us walking after dinner, and he stopped and said very simply, I think life is easier when you're in it, and I don't want to do it without you. I said yes before he even finished. The wedding was beautiful. I know everyone says that, but ours really was. Garden venue, late afternoon light, both our families crying at inappropriate moments. My father pretending not to cry, and then crying harder than anyone. Erin looked so happy that day. Not smug, not triumphant, not performative. Just deeply, sincerely happy. For the first few years, marriage suited us. We built things. That's how it felt. I was growing my interior design business, slowly but steadily. Erin was doing really well in finance. He worked hard, but he was ambitious in a way that felt reassuring back then. Like he wanted to create stability, security, a real future. We bought our first house 3 years into the marriage. Not the giant suburban dream house right away. Just a good warm house, in a neighborhood with trees and decent schools, and a kitchen I immediately wanted to renovate. We argued over paint colors and sofa fabric, and where to put the dining table. Small, domestic arguments. The kind that make you feel married in a satisfying way. Then Isla was born. And for a while, honestly, I thought my heart would burst from how happy I was. Erin was incredible in those early months. He was tired, of course, we both were, but he was involved. He did night feeds. He learned how to swaddle faster than I did. He walked around the house with her on his shoulder for hours when she was colicky. I used to watch him hold her and think, I chose well. I really chose well. 3 years later we had Theo. By then life was louder, messier, fuller. There were school forms and pediatrician appointments, and birthday parties and grocery bills, and toy explosions in the living room, and endless loads of laundry. Erin's job had become more demanding by then, but he still showed up in ways that mattered. He coached Isla's soccer one season. He built Theo a ridiculous cardboard castle for a school project. He was the fun parent in a lot of ways. The parent who came home with surprise ice cream and turned bath time into nonsense games and let them stay up 20 minutes too late on Fridays. And we were doing well. Financially, I mean. That's important to say, because money became such a huge part of how everything later fell apart. Erin's income kept increasing. Bonuses got bigger. His title got fancier. My business also picked up more than I expected. We weren't billionaires or anything absurd, but we were comfortable. Very comfortable. We bought a bigger house eventually, took nice vacations, started college funds, talked about long-term investments. The whole polished, grown-up version of success. From the outside, I know exactly what people saw. Pretty house, good schools, healthy kids, nice vacations. 2 successful parents. Family photos at Christmas in coordinated colors like everybody else's curated lie. And to be fair, it wasn't all a lie. That's the tricky part. A marriage can be real and still fail. A family can be happy and still rot from the inside. A man can love his children and still betray them. I didn't notice the falling out of love all at once. It was slower than that. I think marriages rarely collapse in dramatic scenes at first. They thin out. They lose color gradually, like fabric washed too many times. Aaron started working later and later. At first, I believed every reason he gave, because they were all plausible. New client, year-end reporting, team restructuring, dinner with investors, early flight, delayed meeting, emergency call. It all fit his job. And I was busy too, so I didn't sit around dissecting every explanation. But the emotional part changed before the physical logistics did. He stopped telling me random things. That's one of the first losses, I think, when love starts draining out. Not sex, not date nights, not grand gestures, just the daily texture of knowing someone's mind. He used to call me from the car to complain about some impossible coworker, or tell me something funny he saw, or ask what we should make for dinner. Then that stopped. He used to touch me in passing, a hand at my back in the kitchen, kissing my forehead while I worked, pulling me in when we crossed a street. Then that stopped too. We didn't start fighting dramatically. That would almost have been easier. Instead, we became logistical. Who's picking up Theo? Did you sign Isla's form? The dishwasher's leaking again. I'll be late. Can you transfer the camp deposit? Did you call the accountant? Your mother's coming Saturday, right? A marriage can survive stress. It can survive exhaustion. It can survive children and work and bad timing and even resentment sometimes. But indifference? That's harder. I remember one night so clearly. The kids were asleep, and I was sitting on the couch next to him. Not touching, just next to him. He was on his laptop, answering emails. I was watching some terrible reality show half-heartedly. And I had this sudden, overwhelming realization that if I disappeared from that couch for 10 minutes, maybe 20, maybe an hour, it might take him a while to even notice. That thought shook me, because I wasn't angry, I was lonely. And loneliness inside a marriage feels humiliating in a way regular loneliness doesn't. Still, I tried. I suggested weekends away. He said work was bad. I suggested therapy. He said we weren't at that point. I suggested regular date nights. We managed maybe 2, both awkward and interrupted by phones. At one point, I actually asked him directly, "Are you still happy?" And he stared at me like I'd asked him something in a language he used to know, but had forgotten. Then he said, "I'm just tired, Nina." That became his answer for everything. Tired to talk, too tired to go out, too tired to have sex, too tired to discuss us, too tired to fight, too tired to fix. And maybe some of it was true. I'm sure it was. He worked hard, we both did. But tiredness became this blanket thrown over every crack. Then there were the little things. His phone turned face down more often. He started taking some calls outside. He got more particular about laundry when he had never cared before. There were new shirts, better cologne, a gym membership he barely seemed to use, but was suddenly very committed to keeping up. If I sound stupid for not seeing it clearly then, I know. But suspicion is a strange thing when it's your own life. You don't want to sound paranoid. You don't want to become one of those people who rifles through phones and reads meaning into every delayed text. You want a reasonable explanation, because the unreasonable one is too expensive. And by expensive, I don't mean money. I mean emotionally catastrophic. I think in some quiet part of me, I knew we were moving toward divorce before either of us said the word. It happened on a Tuesday night. Why is it always something ordinary? Why doesn't life at least have the decency to stage its disasters better? Theo had a mild fever. Isla had forgotten a school project until 9 p.m. The sink was full. I was exhausted. Aaron came home late, again, loosened his tie, asked what was for dinner in that distracted tone that implied he hadn't really entered the house yet. Something in me snapped, but not explosively, just cleanly. I said, "I don't think we can keep doing this." He looked at me, and for 1 second I saw something almost like relief. That was the moment I should have understood how far gone he already was. I remember asking, "Do you even want this marriage anymore?" And he took a long pause before saying, "I don't know." Not even a lie, not even a comforting lie, just, "I don't know." Once that sentence was spoken, everything changed. We tried to talk calmly for the next few days, truly. We told each other we would keep things respectful, that the children came first, that we were both adults, that we had too much history to turn ugly. It was all very noble, and completely unserious in retrospect. Because the second lawyers entered, the marriage stopped being a relationship and became a case. The issue wasn't just emotional, it was structural. We had built a whole life together over 10 years. A house, investments, retirement funds, business income, stock compensation, education accounts, savings, a vacation property we barely used but still paid for, jointly held assets, separately titled accounts that weren't as separate as they looked. People think divorce is just split it down the middle. That's adorable. No. Divorce, when there's real money and children and resentment, becomes anthropology and warfare combined. Who contributed what? What counts as marital? What was commingled? What was gifted? What was hidden? What was spent? What was promised? What was documented? Who sacrificed career growth? Who carried childcare? Who paid for what? What is fair? What is legal? What can be proven? At first, I thought we could mediate. That lasted until Aaron hired his lawyer. God, I hated that woman. Not because she was bad at her job. The opposite. She was very good. Sharp, polished, almost offensively calm. The kind of person who says something brutal, in a voice soft enough to make it sound administrative. The minute she got involved, the tone changed. Suddenly, I was receiving requests for documentation going back years. Suddenly, there were implications that my business income was inconsistently reported. Suddenly, there were suggestions that Aaron had carried disproportionate financial burdens in the marriage. Suddenly, childcare schedules were being discussed like merger terms. So I hired my own lawyer. And once both sides had serious counsel, whatever was left of our private brief became formalized conflict. You know what no one tells you? Divorce is boring before it's devastating. There are emails, endless emails, financial affidavits, asset disclosures, tax returns, statements, appraisals, draft proposals, revised proposals, parenting calendars, temporary support calculations, and all the while you're still packing lunches and attending school meetings and pretending in front of your children that the world is not splitting under the floorboards. The first time Isla asked, "Are you and Dad mad at each other?" I nearly broke. Because she didn't ask, "Are you divorcing?" She asked, "Are you mad?" Children always reduce things to the emotional truth faster than adults do. Then I started noticing things that didn't make sense. Aaron's disclosures were off. Not in one giant movie-style obvious way, in 1,000 small irritating ways. There were recurring charges I didn't recognize. Modest enough not to stand out at first. Utility payments to an address I didn't know. Restaurant tabs in a part of the city he had no reason to be in. A parking garage invoice. Subscription services duplicated oddly. Rideshare patterns inconsistent with his explanations. Hotel charges that appeared under a business card but didn't line up with travel schedules. At first, I thought maybe he was hiding money, which, don't get me wrong, was bad enough. My lawyer thought so too. She said, "Sometimes financial inconsistencies are just sloppy accounting. Sometimes they're concealment. We need to know which." So we started digging. I felt disgusting about it. Not morally righteous, not empowered. Disgusting. Because even though we were divorcing, there was still some pathetic part of me clinging to the idea that maybe the marriage had just failed in the ordinary way. Maybe we had simply grown apart. Maybe nobody was a villain. Maybe this was sadness, not deception. That fantasy died fast. My lawyer recommended a forensic accountant first, and then, when patterns deepened instead of clarifying, she recommended a private investigator. I almost said no. A private investigator felt theatrical, desperate, like something from people wealthier and uglier than us. But then I looked again at the statements. The same neighborhood kept appearing, the same days of the week, the same gaps, the same lies that were small enough individually to shrug off and impossible collectively to ignore. So I said yes. And if I could erase one moment from my life, it would not be the day I found out. It would be the day before. A day I still didn't know for certain. Because certainty is brutal, but at least it ends the argument inside your own head. The investigator was very matter-of-fact. He'd clearly done this 100 times. No judgment, no sympathy performance, just professionalism. When he came into my lawyer's office with the file, I remember noticing his cuff had a loose thread. Isn't that insane? That's what I remember. Not breathing, not blinking, just staring at this loose thread and thinking, my life is about to become paperwork. He laid everything out, photographs first. Aaron entering a residential building in another part of the city. Aaron leaving that same building early in the morning. Aaron carrying a duffel bag I had never seen. Aaron at a grocery store with a woman I did not know. Aaron walking in a park with that woman and a little girl. Then the address. The apartment wasn't in his name directly. Of course it wasn't. It was tied to an LLC used for consulting-related housing flexibility, which is exactly the kind of polished nonsense that sounds credible until you look closer. But the money trail was there. Rent, utilities, furnishings, groceries, streaming subscriptions, pharmacy purchases, parking. He hadn't just had an affair. He had built infrastructure. That's what shattered me. An affair is terrible, but it still exists in the realm of impulse, weakness, secrecy, desire, stupidity. Still awful, still unforgivable for me, but recognizably human. This was project management. This was a second life, maintained with budgets and routines and duplicate toiletries. I asked the investigator, how long? And he said, based on what we can establish with confidence, close to 3 years. 3 years. 3 years of birthdays, family vacations, school pickups, holidays, parent-teacher conferences, dinners at our table, Christmas cards with matching sweaters. 3 years of my husband commuting between his real life and an edited copy. I couldn't even cry at first. I just felt cold. Then came the detail I still have trouble saying out loud. The little girl. At first I told myself she must be the woman's daughter from a previous relationship. That had to be it. That was still survivable as information, comparatively. But there were enough signs to make the question unavoidable. The age, the timeline, the familiarity. The fact that she called him by a nickname. I asked my lawyer if we could know. She told me very carefully that unless it became relevant to proceedings, family courts are not there to investigate moral catastrophe for emotional closure. But if marital funds were supporting another child or household, then yes, relevance could emerge. Do you understand what that does to a person? Sitting in an office while a stranger delicately explains the procedural conditions under which your husband's secret child may become legally material? That was the point where I stopped seeing the divorce as salvageable in any humane sense. From there, everything escalated. My lawyer amended strategy immediately. Forensic tracing got more aggressive. We started preparing arguments around dissipation of marital assets. Basically that he had spent shared marital money maintaining an affair and potentially another household. His side fought everything. Denied, delayed, minimized. Their position shifted constantly depending on what we had already uncovered. At first, those charges were business-related. Then they were temporary living arrangements during demanding work periods. Then the woman was a personal relationship formed after the marriage had functionally ended. Then some expenses were mischaracterized. Then the apartment was not regularly occupied. Then some of the transfers were loans. It was like arguing with smoke. Every time we pinned down one fact, the shape of the lie changed. And meanwhile, the kids were living inside the weather system of all this. I tried so hard to shield them. I really did. But children know. Isla started becoming quiet in this sharp, watchful way that broke my heart because it reminded me of adults, not children. Theo became clingier. He started asking whether Daddy would sleep at our house or the other place, even though nobody had said those words to him directly. One evening, I overheard Isla telling Theo, "Don't ask too many questions right now." That sentence haunts me. A child telling another child to manage the emotional burden of the adults around them. My parents were furious. Aaron's parents were complicated. His mother went through phases. First denial, then defensiveness, then tears, then this awful attempt to split blame in the name of balance. She actually said to me once, "Marriage is complicated. People make mistakes." I remember looking at her and thinking, a mistake is forgetting an anniversary. A mistake is saying something cruel in a fight. This man funded an alternate domestic existence. Do not hand me the word mistake like it covers this. The legal case became ugly in layers. There were depositions, statements under oath, financial experts, custody evaluations whispered about though never fully needed, arguments over the house, arguments over support, arguments over whether certain accounts were intentionally concealed, arguments over whether my business should be valued higher or lower depending on whose interests were being served that week. At one point, Aaron's lawyer implied I was using the adultery allegations to gain leverage in asset negotiations. I almost laughed, as if I wanted leverage more than I wanted my old reality back. But the truth is, once litigation starts, pain gets translated into leverage whether you want it to or not. Then the paternity issue moved from suspicion to fact. Not through some melodramatic courtroom reveal. Real life is meaner and duller than that. It came through documentation tied to support-related transfers, and then was privately confirmed during discovery. The girl was his. She was his child. I had to sit there and hear those words in a conference room with bad air conditioning and a legal pad in front of me while my lawyer kept talking in measured tones about implications. I remember pressing my thumbnail so hard into my palm it left a crescent mark. Because suddenly the story had to be retold again, even inside my own mind. He hadn't just loved someone else. He hadn't just slept with someone else. He had built another family while living inside ours. And this is the part no one understands unless they've lived it. I was furious with him. I was disgusted. I was shattered, and yet part of me still grieved him. Not the real him, maybe. Not the man he was in full, but the man I had believed in. The father in the doorway, with one kid on each leg. The husband who texted me about sentimental birthday cards. The man who brought pastries from my hometown and looked at me like I was home. That man either existed once and disappeared, or I imagined him so well that I married the projection. I still don't know which answer hurts more. Eventually the case resolved because all cases do, one way or another. Not with healing, with exhaustion. The financial findings damaged him badly. The hidden expenditures mattered. The concealment mattered. His credibility mattered. In the settlement, I retained the family home for the children's stability until certain milestones. The college funds were protected. Support was structured tightly. Asset division shifted more in my favor than it would have if this had simply been an ordinary, no-fault, transparent divorce. Every arrangement became precise. That was one thing I learned fast. When trust dies, detail takes its place. Nothing informal, nothing verbal, nothing will work it out. Pickup times, holiday schedules, account transfers, disclosures, reimbursements, everything documented. And Aaron? He looked older by the end of it. Not sympathetic, just worn, like his face had finally become honest about the cost of what he'd done. There were moments when he tried to speak to me outside the machinery of lawyers, to explain, to contextualize, to say things like, "It got out of control, and I never meant to hurt the kids, and I didn't know how to stop." But those sentences are for people trying to feel less monstrous after the fact. They weren't for me. A second life doesn't happen by accident. It requires hundreds of decisions, tiny ones, boring ones, consistent ones. Booking the apartment, saving the number, deleting the messages, inventing the trip, buying the groceries, explaining the charge, telling the lie, tucking your children into bed after kissing another child goodbye somewhere else. That is not chaos, that is maintenance. So no, I never got the dramatic apology people imagine. No speech could bridge that distance anyway. What I got instead was the truth, peace by humiliating peace. And then, eventually, I got something better than closure. I got clarity. I stopped asking what I did wrong. I stopped replaying every tired season of our marriage as if maybe I had failed some hidden test. I stopped treating his betrayal like a puzzle I could solve into innocence. He did what he did because he believed he could manage it. That's all. He believed he could have both lives at once. Both versions of himself. Both families. Both narratives. And for a while he was right. That's the part that should terrify people. Not that monsters exist. That ordinary-looking men can compartmentalize so well that even the person sleeping beside them doesn't hear the walls going up. Sometimes I think back to that rooftop party and want to shake that younger version of me. Tell her to leave early. Tell her not to laugh at the dessert joke. Tell her that love can still be real in the moment and ruin you later. But then I think of Isla and Theo, and I think no, I would choose them again. Even knowing everything, I would choose the years that gave me them. I just wouldn't choose him. That's the difference. So when people ask me now what happened, I usually give them the short version. We grew apart. The divorce got messy. There were financial complications. He was unfaithful. That version fits in polite conversation. But the real version? The real version is this long, ugly thing made of memory and paperwork and humiliation and survival. The real version is that I fell in love with a man who seemed safe. I built a life with him. I had children with him. I trusted him with the most ordinary, sacred parts of myself. And while I was busy living our life, he was building another one. And in the end, all those lawyers and investigators and court filings didn't destroy my marriage. They just uncovered how thoroughly it had already been destroyed in private.